grow up in the United States, that the first piece of fruit you ate was a mandarin, okay? And the reason is because your mother pulled out a can
I'm
of
gonna go around
mandarin
you.
orange segments and put it on the tray of your high chair, and either you ate it, or you stuck it in your ear, or you fed it to the dog, one or the other. And if you have my dogs, your dogs will eat it. So those particular varieties of mandarins are these. This Owari Satsuma. This is a Japanese variety. Probably, do I have a Kitsuwase? Yes, I do.
Yes.
Oh yeah, right there. A Kitsuwase Satsuma. This one's getting it got a little sunburn, so it's a little dry on that end. So that obviously isn't reflective of the variety. And so these are very easy to peel, and they're a little bit intolerant of heat. So if you have one of these, I would put it where it doesn't get too much afternoon sun. That would be the Satsumas. We have other ones here. This one, Pongkan, is the favorite of folks from China. It's a very low acid. It's really nice. We have this Tango. If you buy a bag of cuties right now, you're going to be eating this particular variety. It's a little bit late, so like this one isn't even quite ready yet, okay? And I picked this one in Yuma yesterday. So on the inside it's ready, but on the outside it's a little bit green. So that's the Tango. That's what you're eating, and you can see that it's completely seedless.
And that's always seedless?
It's always seedless. Okay, earlier in the season, okay, and earlier in the season, before these are ready, they fill them with these clementines, like maybe that one, or where's another one? This one here, or that one there, and you can see that these clementines have seeds. So the way they avoid seediness in these clementines is they actually cover the trees to keep the bees from pollinating. The bees don't pollinate these things; they keep the seed. So they start out with these clementines, those three, and then they move to these tangos, and that's what they use to fill those bags. Are those the best tasting fruit? Not necessarily. I like many of these better than those. So what are if you've been around in Arizona for a long time, we used to grow these things called Fairchilds. Maybe you found these in the bottom of your Christmas stocking if you lived in Arizona as a kid. They are early. That means they're ready to eat as early as Thanksgiving. Okay, whereas some of these others aren't that early. They do have seeds, but they have a nice flavor. They don't have as good a flavor now because it's almost February, but back there in November, December, these had a much better flavor than some of these others. So this is an early one, okay? This is another mid-season one, which also would taste fantastic. This one is completely seedless. It's Japanese, but you can't ship it, so you're never going to find it in the grocery store. Almost never going to find it in the grocery store. This one actually I found in the grocery store the other day at Sprouts. They're calling it Neapolitan. Okay, it's actually a hybrid of a mandarin and a tangelo down there. Okay, so this, I don't know why they call it Neapolitan. It's not from Naples. It's not 3 flavors of ice cream. They just gave it a name. So that's called Cage. What are my favorites? What are the sweetest of all of these? Well, I happen to like ones that are not too sweet and not too acid and have a good strong sweet flavor but have an undertone of acid. It sounds like I'm talking about wine, doesn't it? The Daisy is a fantastic flavored one. The Gold Nugget is fantastic, and it's not even ready yet. It'll be better in June than it is now. The Kinau, also very nice, rather late piece of fruit. But in some cases, you got to deal with seeds. But if you were to come by at 11:30 and taste some of these, you'll find that some of these varieties taste better than those. So if you're willing to put up with seeds, or you got a good juicer, and you just want to juice your fruit all the time, you got much better flavors than the stuff you buy in the grocery store. This one, always, yeah. That's a naturally seed. That's a natural seedless one.
Even if it's pollinated?
Even if it's pollinated.
It's easy to peel.
Huh?
Is it easy to peel?
It is fairly easy to peel. So this is a really ugly one. When you go to Walmart in March and you buy a bag of those, they're going to be smaller and easier to peel. Yeah. But all of these fruit are grown in Arizona, except for the one Mexican lime down there, or the Barris lime that I bought in the grocery store. So, comes from Mexico. So, any questions? So these are tangerines. It's the same thing. All right, grapefruit. So the original original grapefruit was actually a hybrid of sweet orange and pomelo, and it occurred in Barbados in the Caribbean in the mid-1500s, and it was white and it was seedy. Well, then there was a naturally occurring mutation in Florida in the 1830s, and this was found at the farm of Colonel Marsh, and thus it's known as Marsh grapefruit. Okay, and it's white and seedless, and that was the mutation, white and seedless. So this is the original white grapefruit juice that almost nobody eats anymore because we don't think white grapefruit's good because it's not like red ones. Okay? So then you had this one in Texas, probably in the 1920s or so, and there was a naturally occurring mutation in this field of this, and it turned into this. Okay, a naturally occurring sport. Okay, a mutation. We don't have that in humans, fortunately. You know. So, but that's what this turned into. Okay, so this is the ruby red. Okay, and it's not really red, but it's redder than that one. So it was named in the 20s when all there was this and this. This was the red one. Okay, but then there was a mutation from that one, and it led to this one, the Rio Red, and this is the one that you buy in the grocery store today that comes from Texas. Okay. Not only is it redder, but it also has a nicer blush on the outside. Okay? So nowadays, when you buy a grapefruit tree at Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart, you're likely to get one of these. Very nice grapefruit. And then there's this flame, which is another one, very similar. The fruit's a little bit smaller, also very nice to eat. And then there's this one, which also is very nice to eat. The problem that we have with this one is only one that it doesn't grow very well in the desert. It gets root rot problems, it gets sunburn problems, it gets micronutrient deficiency problems, so it's not easy to grow. So you want to grow it? I don't know. I mean, if you can put it, this is a much easier fruit to grow, and the color is about the same. But they all taste fantastic. Now,
is the Marsh the only one that's seedless?
well, horticulturally, when you have two seeds, we call this seedless, so they're all seedless. Okay? Now, when you take a grapefruit and you hybridize it with a pomelo, you get this. This is a grapefruit pomelo hybrid. It combines the seedlessness. There's only aborted seed in here, okay? And the relative evenness of the segments, and believe it or not, this is a thin peel, okay, as compared with the pomelos. It gives, this is the quality that you get from the grapefruit, and what you get from the pomelo is the flavor, okay, because pomelos are not as acidic, not as bitter as a grapefruit are. And so this is a man-made hybrid done at the University of California. It's called Oro Blanco, and there's another one called Mellow Gold. Okay, so that's what this is. And I happen to have one of these in my yard, so, right, Marcos? Yeah. Marcos is my foreign exchange student, and we have this many mornings, okay, as juice. So, speaking of juice, if you want a good juice orange, the Valencia is the way to go, okay? They're not ready in November, they're not ready in December, they're barely ready in January, but by February they're really nice, and they make a very, very rich flavored juice with there's a lot of quantity of juice that comes out of a fruit of this size as compared with a navel of the same size, okay? They don't peel very easily, they don't segment very easily, but they make the best quality, richest flavor orange juice. So when the Floridians are making orange juice, they like this, okay? So these are all about the same. Again, they're not ready early. They're late oranges, and they're of varying colors, and the flavors very similar, but this one, for example, is another mutation, and it was selected because it has a better color. And the Floridians, when they want orange juice, they'd rather it be more orange rather than yellow. Okay, so these two, the Midnight and the Valencia, are from South Africa, and the South Africans feel that they do a little bit better in the heat, and I think they're right, they do. So again, Valencias are late season oranges that are primarily used for juicing. You can eat them fresh, but I would suggest then just cutting them into segments and eating them still attached, pulling the fruit off. But you won't get it all. It'll be, you will not get all the flesh off the peel when you eat those, so, because they're tight.
Do you have time for questions? You want me to hold them?
If it's a quick question, yeah.
When they say sweets, is
this the whole Valencia family, or is there?
No, there's a sweet group down there that I haven't got to. Yeah, so now navel oranges, everybody knows navels, and navels are typically for eating fresh, okay? They make juice, obviously, but the quantity of juice that you get out of the fruit isn't as high as you get from the Valencias, nor is the quality. Okay? The flavor of navel juice isn't near as good as Valencia juice is. And so most people, you're stuck on the 202 in traffic, you got nothing else to do when you're in traffic jam, have a navel orange. That's what those are. So we have early season, mid-season, late season, and they are all naturally occurring mutations of this one, okay? This one is 149 years old. One of the trees, they came from Brazil to Riverside, California in 1873. And one of them still exists. One of the original trees still exists in Riverside today. It's called Parent Washington because it came from Brazil to Washington to Riverside. It's actually, Brazilians call it Bahia because it comes from the northeastern Brazilian state of Bahia, where they grow a lot of natives. So this was the original one. All the rest of these are naturally occurring mutations. A farmer had a field of this, for example, and he went out one day in Australia, for example, and his name was Powell, and he discovered he had one tree of Washington that was quite a bit later than the rest. And so he propagated because he made more money if he held the fruit a little bit longer. So this Powell is a late navel. This Fisher is an early navel. Okay, the Mars here is also, where's Mars? Another early navel with very little acidity. Okay, so all navels, all naturally occurring mutations. We have another one which didn't make it today because I think last week we ate all of them, called Cara Cara. Okay, that's the red flesh one you can find in the grocery store. It's a navel. Yep, it has a nice strawberry overtones to its flavor. It's available for, you can find it pretty easily. It's very popular and it grows well here in the desert. And if we hadn't been so greedy last week, we would have it here on the table. By the way, there's 93 different selections of citrus on this table today. That would have been 94.
Are the characters a little bigger too?
No, they're actually a bit smaller.
Because we have one that was marked Washington Navel,
Yeah.
but it's a little bigger and it has pink flesh, and it is a navel.
It probably is a Cara Cara. Yeah. Unless you have another naturally occurring mutation, in which case you might want to name it after yourself. Or your kid. That daisy down there is named after the wife of the nurseryman who grew it. So. All right, those are navels. Navels, again, to go back, are best for eating fresh, segmenting and putting into salads and just eating out of hand.
I read or heard somewhere that navel juice goes bitter after about
It
an
does.
hour.
It does. They actually, when they take it to the packing house and they make it into orange juice, they have to deep bitter it. They run it through a series of enzyme plates to take some of the bitter, the limonin and the naranjin, which are the bitter flavors. They actually remove it. But it doesn't have that richness of flavor even after that bitterness is removed. Yeah. So now, sweet oranges. Sweet oranges are neither navels nor are they Valencias. The difference is that sweet oranges are early and mid-season, and Valencias are late. These are good for both eating fresh and for juicing. The juice quality is comparable, but not better than a Valencia, but it's earlier. So if you want fresh orange juice in November or December, a Trovita might be the way to go, okay? Because your Valencia won't be ready by November or December. It won't be ready till mid to late January, okay? If you want to eat something, and you get the added bonus of eating fresh, okay? So I happen to have a Trovita in my yard, and it makes a nice quality orange juice, okay? Because I like to juice my fruit, and so it makes a nice eating. A nice juicing fruit earlier in the season. So I don't happen to have a Valencia in my yard, but nonetheless. So to compare, sweet oranges are early to mid-season, best for eating fresh or for juicing. Navels are early, mid-season, late, best for eating fresh, and Valencias are late season, best for juicing. Okay. And then we have bloods. All right. And bloods, of course, come from Italy. They probably came from China originally, but they were popularized in Sicily and the boot of Italy, Calabria, and places like that. And we have several varieties. Now, the one that you buy mostly in the grocery store is this Moro. And I'm not sure what's going on with this tree because this is not as red as we would normally expect a Moro to be. Okay? Now, they do turn color in response to cold weather, so maybe there hasn't been enough cold weather here to turn this Moro yet. Okay? but you'll have more color in February than you will in December. You'll have more color here than you will in Yuma. All right. So this Sanguinelli is always well colored, okay, and always well colored on the outside, but the fruit's relatively small. It also is, the flesh is a little bit stiff, okay, and you know, you never want to eat this with a white shirt on. You know, that would be bad news. Okay. Now, what's the most in my mouth? What's the best flavor? Is the Tarocco. Okay. I have a Tarocco tree in my yard too, and it doesn't make too many fruit, but when it does, this is fantastic. It doesn't make the best quality juice because the juice doesn't look pretty. It tastes fantastic, but it doesn't look pretty. But what it does do is when you eat it, it's nice melting flesh. Very little acidity to it at all. Tarocco, nice blood orange. All of them are nice. Can't go wrong with a blood orange. When you take a blood orange and you hybridize it with a pomelo, similar man-made hybrid, okay, very recent. It has almost no acidity to it at all. It turns color in response to cold weather like a blood orange does. When we cut it at 11:30, you will love it. Okay, it's fantastic. But at the moment, we have 3 trees in Yuma, and I'm not sure there's too many other trees at the moment. So if you want budwood, you can call me. These are pomelos that are not hybrids, okay? Pomelos are the descendants of grapefruit. I'm sorry, pomelos are the ancestors of grapefruit, okay? So you take a pomelo, you hybridize it with a sweet orange, and you get a grapefruit, okay? But these are the original pomelos. These are favorites in the Far East, China, Japan, Indonesia, Philippines. They look like a grapefruit. They have a thick peel, a thicker peel than a grapefruit. Sometimes they have seeds. Wow. Do they have seeds or what? But the flavor, if you don't like grapefruit because they're acidic, you might very well like a pomelo. They don't have quite the acidity that a pomelo does. When you buy